Right, good evening everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's have a little sound check in. I'm sure you can. Comments, hopefully you can let me know if everything's all right with the audio, which is where I normally go wrong. Little impromptu live this evening. And we're going to talk a little bit about fitting. Because I did a video, a Q&A this week. I think it was this week that it went out, where there was a question that went up, which was a great question. Hi from Dublin, James Stenson. Here you brass, Steve Garner, Clive, hi. Well, I'm home from one of these. Hello from Toronto. Hello, Tyler Love. Thanks for joining. Chris Bentley. Yep. Thanks, Chris. So, yeah, this was the question. Let me bring this question up. It was a great question that Stephen answered or asked. I tried to answer it in the video, which I was quite happy with my answer, but obviously a few people were not quite maybe understanding my points because there was a few comments coming in, which we'll talk about. So this was the question. Got fit for the same driver by two different people on two different days and got two different setups. What should I do? Hashtag ask AGG. So for me, what was interesting, so my original answer to this question, which I still liked, was why were you going for two different fits? That makes no sense to me unless you didn't have any trust in one of them. Therefore, you've already answered your own question. The one you don't trust, go with the second one or first one, whichever way round it was. And to go for two fittings for the same club on different days, for me, asks a bigger question about maybe what your understanding is of what you want from a fitting. And what I mean by that is that, as I said in the original answer, the fitting is opinion-based as it is science-based. It's a mixture of both, and there's always going to be opinion in there because A, the fit is opinion to the numbers you deliver, B, your opinion to the numbers you deliver. To give you an example, I fitted people with great numbers into a club they just don't like the look of. So they don't buy it. They don't want that club. They wanted the one that they originally came for, and the numbers arguably weren't as good. And now here lies the interesting point of the question. If we look at the question again, Stephen actually doesn't let us know how different the two clubs was. He just says that they were two different setups. So two different setups could be, let's say I fit you for TS2, okay? And this gives you the best numbers and you get the best ball speed, best launches, everything off it. But you don't like the sound of it or the look of it. And I set you up for another club, a TaylorMade, a Ping, a Callaway, whatever. Another Titleist, whatever it is. And the numbers aren't quite as good, but you love the sound and the feel of that one. Now, when I say the numbers aren't quite as good, that could be 5 yards, 2 yards of carry. And that could be a metric or a number that you're not really that fussed about that being that much better. I mean, if you think about it, if I was carrying the ball 312 on average and you said I could carry it 315 with this driver and I hated the look of it, I'm not sure I would change. Do you see what I mean? So it was interesting from the question where people were going, because there were questions on the video comments about people saying, well, this kind of devalues the fitting process if you can't get the same from two different people on two separate days. And 100% absolutely do not agree with those comments. And I responded to people in comments, and there was some constructive kind of back and forth with people as well about that idea. Let's put it more into perspective. If I get whatever driver, just the head that's on my desk, a TS2, okay, and this is a 9.5 loft, but I have it on the sure fit hosel knocked down to whatever it goes down to in half without the chart. Let's say I get it down to an 8.5 and I get X numbers, really good numbers, but when I get out on the course, I tend to just fade it a little bit too much, like it does. I can't draw it as easily. I might then whack it back up to 9.5 because even though that carries 5, 6, 7, 2 yards shorter, I can shape it both ways, and I feel like when there's trouble on the right, I'm not going to go in that trouble. So if you get me on a day to a fitting where I think I wanted it 6 yards further, and then the next day you get me to a place where I feel like I actually want to shape it more because I've had a bad day in between the two fittings, my opinion as the customer will change over those 2 days. And if I give that information to a fitter, you're going to get two different fits totally on those 2 points. Yet both of those clubs I could still play with. Other points, when it comes to things like shaft, so what shaft goes in that club, certain fitters will have certain favoured shafts, and that could be for any reason. Could be for profit margin, just to say it bluntly out there. It could be through what they feel gives the best performance, just off the board, don't care about what they make less money on it, but it's the best performing shaft they find for certain groups of people, and they categorise that way to test. So they will give you that option first and a few others to try around it. You could give me 20 different shafts and it wouldn't matter. I'm going to go on looks, sounds, feels, those kind of things, but it's really not going to matter to my numbers. I could show you many other students where you could give them 2 or 3, 4, 20 shafts, again, random numbers. To think that there's only one shaft out there that's going to do everything for you is, I think, one of those common myths with custom fitting. There could be 5. So if you go to 2 different fitters on 2 different days and one gives you a hazardous smoke and another one gives you a whatever, that doesn't mean you've had 2 different fittings. It actually means it doesn't matter which one of those 2 you have. Because also from the question, what's interesting, and this is where we'll get to my main point about fitting in a second before we get into the comments. Stephen doesn't mention any ball data, any delivery data. He just mentions he got, if you look at the question there, 2 different setups. Well, for me, a fitting is as much as a lesson as it is a fitting. It's the same thing, and I've said this for many years. Without knowing any of the actual data he got out of that, it's impossible to tell if those fitters have done a good or bad job for him. Just impossible. Because he could be hitting day 1 shots, all a bit heel based and low. Day 2, whatever day that is, he could be hitting middle, low heels and a few high toes that go further. It's going to give him different numbers, different launches, different spins, and that might change the opinions on what club he could end up with. It doesn't mean one is better than the other, because if that is his pattern, one of those fittings is going to be better for when he's hitting low heels, and one of those fittings will be better when he gets the odd high toes. But if he plays like that in and out each day, well, you can't have, unless you want to buy 2 drivers, you can't fit for that. That's something where you can only fit around that. You can fit to the best possible numbers, because you're always going to have that human element, that human inconsistency in there that you just can't get away from. So I think for fittings, for me, from this brilliant question from Stephen, and I thank him for posting it, it actually values, for me, the fitting process more than it devalues it. It shows you that, for me personally, I would want that fitting process for Stephen to be more around why he came up with the clubs he did. If he understood that answer, he'd be able to put it into that question and say, oh, day 1 I hit it like this, day 2 I hit it like this, and I ended up with 2 different fits. What's the best time to go for a fit, or how can you fit around that? That's a very different question to that one there that he has posted. And certainly then I think maybe the interpreted responses to, say, my response to that question as well might have been quite different also. Let's see what the comments are saying. I mean, it's a really interesting debate, because I think the one with fitting, the fact that people think there is a perfect club for them, I would argue there could be 2 to 3 to 4 perfect heads. There could be 2 or 3 different lofts, which might change with different clubs to make them perfect heads, because not all clubs are going to launch the same way, subject to CGs and roll and bulges and head shapes and how you deliver. And there could be 5 different shafts to 20 different shafts to 2 different shafts that could be perfect for you. So if you work all those combinations in, you could probably work out, without doing the maths, there's probably 100 different clubs that could be perfect for you. But you're going to see them as different, not getting exactly the same club each fitting, because there's similarities in lots of these clubs. What are people saying? Fitting helps your gapping down to your wedges. Scott Golf is saying, I'd agree with that. And again, that's how fitting should be, an educational process, rather than just a, this is what's right for you, do what I say. You've got to have your input as well. It's very good guidelines for starting, Simon Young saying. What else are playing? People say hi. I have thoughts on Mizuno's DNA system. Thanks, Tartan Army. It's very popular. They use it on tour. I personally, I'm not a massive fan of it, but they seem to get the results they want from it, so that's good. If you're having lessons, do you think it would be best to give advice for your coach or get fit, or both? If you're having lessons, do you think it would be best to get advice from your coach or get fit, or both? Both, Charlie March, both. A fitting for me should be the same as a lesson. They should be the same thing. You can learn so much from your fittings. Think about what a fitting will tell you. It'll tell you what loft you need, what life you've got adjustables like on the Sure Fit hosel here, and other ones will sit closed and opens. What shaft and weights, lengths, grip sizes, what flexes you like. So there's lots of questions that can be answered in a fitting. So the loft might have a distinct it will have a direct connection to what dynamic loft you deliver. So you end up with a silly low one or a silly high lofted one. That's going to tell you things about your delivery, things that you should be thinking about maybe improving along with a fitting. So, I mean, I've done loads of fittings. People come long ways. They used to for me for fittings. When I used to advertise, I did fittings. And I turned them into lessons 99.9% of the time. And then we did a fitting in that time, or I told them to come back once they'd worked on some of the things I said. Because I didn't feel happy fitting them until I could see if they could change their technique or not, to then build a dynamic loft stroke, then the delivered loft, a dynamic loft to then what static loft we give them on a club. The loft will then be determined by hitting down and ups, will encourage different launches, and then in turn lofts sometimes as well. That'll have an effect on the models you might go for. You'll learn your strike patterns if you get fit on a decent machine like GC quads and things like that. Lots of TrackMan numbers out there. It's great when people send me their TrackMan data, but they don't show me any strike data. If you haven't got strike data, I don't know how you can call it fitting personally, because I can hit the ball 20 yards further from that point to that point, and that's not a big hitting area to miss or to hit, and that will vary my numbers massively. Driver fittings finds your dynamic loft. Spot on, Carl. What's Carl saying to be spot on? Where's Carl? I can't see Carl. Best to wait until you have a swing you are happy with before fitting, or they will be setting you up without curing swing faults. Carl, kind of yes and kind of no, Carl. And I would do that with students. I would tell them to come back once to show me if they've made changes to their swing or if they can make changes to the swing. The flip side to that bit is you need clubs to play. So don't not get clubs, so maybe get a cheap starter set, like a box set or something, whatever, just to get you playing, because that's more fun than just training your swing. People get lost in that circle a bit, certainly if they're beginners. The next thing as well is a good coach. I feel personally that I can read how much change potential for change you might have in your swing over a period of time. And that's again why it should be a lesson and a fitting. So I will say get someone delivering it in a really funky way with, say, handle delivery, high and low loft. So in that fitting session stroke lesson, let's say it's an hour or 2 hours long, which is 10 to what I would go for, I'll try and move that, not by changing the club, by changing them. They will demonstrate to me very quickly how easy or hard that is for them. Let's say it's really easy, then I think, right, we can really start fitting around a future-proofed idea, because he's changing or she's changing that straight away. Bit of work, they're going to get that. If they can't change it at all, I'll have a conversation with them. Look, do you want to get clubs now around these numbers that you could improve with some practice and delivery? If you're not going to practice, then we can move the clubs around to suit you, because you don't want to practice, you want to play once a month. Very similar to the answer I gave recently to how to coach golf video as well. In fact, it's the same video with the first question. The fitting, so people who tend to wait for their perfect swing, you can end up waiting forever, basically. So yes, there is some good points to that, but also there's some bad if it stops you playing. So, and a good coach can work that into the fitting, I personally think. I'm pretty good, in my opinion, of seeing what potential someone's got to change pretty quickly by giving them a few tasks. And I would then, when I used to fit, I would work that into the fitting, but always having a conversation with them to make them aware of what I'm doing. I'm fitting you like this because I think we can get here. And if I ever got that crazily wrong, we would sort that out. And obviously with modern drivers, you can change the necks generally. If you needed to tweak lofts and lies, it wouldn't be a massive disaster because you can tweak it. What else are people saying? George, I'm a 5 handicap and my delivery changes every day. That's an interesting point as well. What I often find with students when I measure is deliveries don't change very often at all. Strike changes, but delivery numbers stay quite constant. So out to in, face open to a path out the heel, out to in, face open to path out the toe. 2 very different misses. They think that's a different delivery. It's a different delivery in fact of how you've lined the centre of gravity of the club up to the ball, but the actual face open to the path and path numbers and angle of attacks and lofts are pretty much exactly the same. You'll be amazed how consistent you actually are, even when you hit 2 shots that can go very opposite ends of the fairway. Often that comes back to strike. And again, fitting, how much is it going to help strike? Again, that's limited and something that you would work in there. Hi Mark, sorry if it's already been answered, but I'm a 20 handicap of limited funds. Should I buy cheap new and get fit or buy second hand? Buy whatever you can afford, buy around whatever you can. I don't know any major manufacturer, no matter how hard they want to market at you, from Titleist to Callaway to TaylorMade to Ping, none of them want you to buy their clubs. And this is my opinion, I might be wrong, this is my opinion, but I'm pretty sure they would back me up on this, even the ones that hate me, that you can't afford. Why would anyone want you to buy clubs that you can't? If you can't afford their products, they know they either have to make a cheaper product or they'll wait for you to come and get that product at some point when you spend more money on your leisure activity if you end up doing it. Buy what you can afford, and I've done videos on this. If that is a starter set, get a box set, get playing. They might not lie correctly, they won't be the best materials, and you might hit some funky shots, but you'll be out there having fun. And then if you want to throw more money at your leisure time, all good. If you don't, that's fine. Buying second hand, like you say, is another good option. Then much harder with a fitting process. So the question is on the false economy. So do you want to do that, then buy again later on? They're all decisions. They're no different to buying many other things in your life. They're just basic decisions that aren't really golf about your finances. Only buy what you can afford. If that's brand new fit, top of the range, whatever, great. If it's not, doesn't matter. Get what you can to get you on the golf course. That's all anyone wants. That's all TaylorMade want. That's all Ping want. That's all Callaway want. That's all Titleist want. That's all Mizuno wants. If you're on the course playing, they've got more chance of turning you into a customer at some point, haven't they? Mark, none of the major manufacturers make cheap drivers. Andy Wood. No, I was talking to this with my parents this evening, actually. It's interesting, isn't it? That middle range to cheaper driver bracket has kind of gone. And I don't know why that is, as in I don't know if it's materials and costs of many other things, or if it's just that people buy them at that price, it makes the right margins for everyone, so they keep selling them at that price. But I agree with you that I remember the days when Cobra used to make that cheaper, like that £200 price point well-made driver. But yeah, golf constantly goes like this. I'm sure those days will come back at some point if they don't go the other way as well. Golf Bidder in the UK and Golf Avenue Canada, so they're obviously options for getting second-hand clubs. Fittings, outdoors versus indoors. Brandon Grimes. Optimum, you go to places like TPI Oceanside, Carlsbad, it's outside on grass, numbers and real shots. It's by far the best, but that wouldn't stop me fitting indoors if I had to. So if you can get it outside, that's great. If you can watch real ball flights, that's good. But if you can't do that, then inside is absolutely fine, and you can get what you want there as long as you've got a good fitter who gets you creative thinking about your shots you're hitting, not just trying to do that whack it down the bay or into the net as hard as possible, which fitters do. And I see lots doing that so much I see it on reviews. Oh, I've hit this one this far, and I just, oh, right. So you're the longest player out playing, like what that doesn't mean, that's not how you fit. So yeah, if you get a good creative fitter who can make sure you're playing gameable shots as well as the long ones, you can do that indoors and outdoors. Should you use your own balls that you like, James Stenson? Yeah, you should be using the balls you would game, preferably. And again, any good fitter would, that's the first question I would ask if I was fitting. I would ask, what ball have you used? Have I got it here? or I haven't. Have you got some in your bag? So we can just see if the measurements are any different from the balls I'm using. Any variable, if you want to really go down the rabbit hole, absolutely needs looking at if you want to get, you know, numbers as close to what you're going to play with out on the course. Because different balls will make different sounds, and you might interpret that as the club. Sound very much plays as feel. So, yes, the ball that you game would be best. Right, let's do one more comment. Who's got the best comment in the comment section before this impromptu live ends? Thanks all for watching. Hit that thumbs up button if you don't already. If you don't subscribe to the channel already, give us a subscribe if you like the videos. Daily uploads, 2 Monday to Friday often, and impromptu lives trying to answer your questions. Let's see if we've got the best question in here to finish. Hi Mark, what are your thoughts on... Oh, hello, we got... Got to ask Daniel then, because Daniel's just paid $4.99 to get his one answered, so I'm going to answer that one, Daniel. I'm 5'6", fit for 1/4 inch short irons, but when gripping down an inch, it's easier to strike pure. Shorter golfers, much shorter clubs, shaft versus distance. Daniel Gomes. Daniel, good question. When I was fitting lots, this sounds really bad. If I had a male who was shorter, the fitting process undoubtedly was harder, because clubs generally weren't made with them in mind. And then when you start mentioning anything about, can you just try this one? I know it's pink. Just ignore that. They'd never ignore that, because you go to the ladies' ones, which were shorter. If you hit it better grip down, maybe having that little bit of extra length at the top, you can go up there to get that distance when you need it, like best of both worlds. You don't have to hold at the top of the club for every shot. You can hold down for every shot. I mean, you see lots of players, Fleetwood's doing it lots at the minute, and there's a few others that's sawn off, held, follow through. You might find that they also take more club, come down, punch it in, hold it off. They're just finding something that's repeatable and gaming and working for them. So if you find it easier holding down an inch on those shorter clubs, do that. The only thing you've got to be wary of, but obviously seems to work for you, is that when you change the length of the club, and that doesn't matter if you chop it with, you know, like a bolt cuttery thing, tube cutter, which you cut shaft with, or if you hold down it, it will change the lie. And if you change the lie, that might change the direction that ball flies at. So you might find that as you go through your bag, the different lofts, you might get some funny shaping shots if you're not careful, if you are changing the lie by coming down and not coming down. So something I would maybe go for a fitter with, like hit some holding down, hit some holding up, see what's happening to the lie delivery, and then work that into your game plan. Do that also with all the different lofts of clubs. So I will hit my 5 iron a different shape than I hit my 23-degree hybrid to what I hit my 8 iron. Because as loft changes, my shape shot slightly changes. I don't try and fix that. That's not a fault. I play with it. I know the patterns of each club. So good question. Shaft versus distance. Actually, I used to say with my fitters, I'm going to try and give you as much distance as I can without losing any control. So making it, basically, if you could give everyone clubs 8 foot long and they could swing them and wield them and control them and get the speed with such a long lever, you give it to everyone. The longest club they can handle before strike and all the other delivery numbers start kind of running off or changing. There we go. Hope that helps. Interesting question. I love this question. I will do more Q&As. It was a great question, Stephen. Hope I answered it for you. Definitely the idea of going for 2 different fits does still confuse me unless you weren't happy with the first one. But also the more we can get you all thinking and moving away from thinking there's one combination of, because that's what fitting is kind of bred. I definitely feel that's what people think. Remember, there could be, in combinations, hundreds of different combinations that could be perfect for you. It won't always just be the one. Hi Mark, Stephen Kenny. Hi Stephen, but I'm afraid it's time to go. Thank you all for watching. I will do more of these. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know if you like the lives. I love them. I love the fact that you're in the chat, chatting to me and answering your questions. I like the fact it's so intimate. Nowhere to hide. No editing to hide behind. No just hopefully my knowledge or lack of, or hopefully not, that helps you understand how to get the most out of your game. Thanks all for watching. As always, I will see you on Monday. I travel on Monday to the States, but there's daily vlogs coming on Monday or whenever. If it's not Monday, it'll be Tuesday. Time differences and the fact that I probably won't sleep for 24 hours. All those kind of things. Have a good evening. Thank you all for watching.